Olá pessoal, bem-vindos à live de hoje. Hoje eu vou estar falando com o Dr. e professor Eisen e ele vai compartilhar um pouco da experiência dele como advogado formado nos Estados Unidos e praticante de direito na China. Então vamos falar um pouco sobre esses detalhes. Hello, it's good to have you watching here today. I believe Eisen is just joining us in a couple of seconds. E aí eu creio que ele vai já tá aqui pronto para entrar. Então, só um segundinho para ele entrar aqui. E aí foi interessante que mais cedo hoje a gente teve problemas na conexão, né? Então, o Instagram é bloqueado na China e aí tem que entrar com vários outros tipos de programas para ter uma conexão fechada, né? Let's see. Só aguardando mais um pouquinho também o pessoal entrar. Obrigado por terem entrado. Tudo bem, Duda? Beleza. Tudo certo por aqui também. Fiquei um pouco nervoso hoje de manhã quando não deu certo. Fiquei preocupado, mas acho que agora vai dar certo. Vamos lá. Então a dinâmica das lives tem sido a seguinte, né? Eu tenho perguntado para as pessoas as coisas em inglês, aí eu já faço a pergunta em português para vocês saberem o que eu estou perguntando. Aí em seguida a pessoa responde e eu faço a tradução pro português, tá? Então, estou chamando aqui. E aí, se vocês tiverem alguma pergunta, fiquem à vontade. Hello!
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah, thanks for joining me today.
Well, I'm sorry for being confused about the time difference, but...
Don't worry. It's all good.
Yeah.
Yes, I was just telling the people who are watching that sometimes people who are speaking from China also have some hard times using Instagram and other connections because of the VPNs and all the great firewall of China things.
Well, yeah, we don't get direct access to Facebook or Instagram or anything. And also, however, more confusing is that our time difference is 11 hours, not 12.
No problem.
Yeah.
So I'll just translate it real quick to Portuguese after you say, so that more people understand what we're talking about. Então a gente só estava falando que tem site, que tipo o Facebook também é um dos sites que é proibido, né, na China. E aí também ele está falando sobre a questão das zonas de tempo e como a gente tem uma diferença de tempo bem grande. What time is it now there?
Midnight. It's 12 o'clock.
É meia-noite na China agora. Wow, thank you so much. I'm sorry that this is the time we were able to meet. Yes, so how I have been doing these lives, I'm trying to understand better about the legal studies in different places of the world and also the work of attorneys in different places. So I'm very honored to be speaking to you today. And I have read your articles and it has been just very nice to understand about your career in China and also studying in the US, being a US licensed attorney. So to start us off, I was wondering, here in Brazil, when we finish high school, we take a test to go into college, you know, and you can go straight into law school here in Brazil. So I was wondering, how did that work for you in the States, and also how does that work in China?
Well, you know, we can flip this around a little bit, right? And
Yeah, definitely.
I would like to ask you questions as well. I
Great.
came to China for college, right? And I
Uh-huh.
did my master's in Chinese politics. And then it
Ooh.
came with the realization that the Chinese government does not want me to have any input into Chinese politics. And that's why I went to law school. And
Oh,
for
okay.
you,
I'll just translate it.
how much of a choice was that for you?
Oh, how much of a choice do I have to influence politics? Is that
No,
what you?
why did you go to law school?
Oh, okay. Good question. Yeah. So actually, that's a funny one. My biggest choice of going into law school is because I got a 100% scholarship.
Okay.
So
Well,
so after getting a scholarship, I was like, yeah, there's not many other options with a full ride scholarship.
but if we are talking to people that are making a choice, right? For me,
Mm-hmm.
law school was also like a scholarship kind of related thing, right? But I combined law school in the States with law school in China. And that is not what people are actively thinking about, right?
Yeah, very
It's
unusual.
and I I sent you information about, you know, Kim Kardashian, right? You
Right.
don't have to
Yeah.
go to law school to be a lawyer in the States, at least. But in international transactions and so on, being an American lawyer means something, right?
It
So
does.
if we have this idea that we want to be involved in deal making internationally, going to law school might not be the, or going to law school traditionally, taking the years and like being involved might not be the best choice. But we don't talk about this enough, right?
Mm-hmm. Great.
So
Yeah.
for you, it was like out of high school. Did you think about being a lawyer, and what was your motivation?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I'll just translate and summarize a little bit what we just talked about, and then I'll answer you back, okay?
Sure.
Então, tentando traduzir tudo que ele falou agora, o Aysen estava explicando que ele foi para a China primeiro para estudar ciência política lá, e aí ele percebeu que o governo não, assim, com todo o estudo dele, ele percebeu que o governo não tinha interesse que as pessoas tivessem algum tipo de influência na sua política. Então, ir para a escola de direito foi importante para ele, para que ele pudesse continuar no mundo dos negócios na China. Porque, numa forma geral, ser um advogado americano, em contexto internacional, tem um peso muito forte. E aí ele falou também que, por exemplo, a Kim Kardashian, que vocês devem ter ouvido falar, ela se tornou uma advogada, isso virou meio famosinho, assim, uma notícia famosa nos Estados Unidos, por conta de não ter ido para a escola de direito. Então ela só fez o exame para admissão, a OAB, né, enfim, a BAR, dos Estados Unidos, e ela foi admitida. Então ela é uma advogada hoje em dia. E aí a gente está tentando falar sobre essas questões assim de, tipo, a ideia de, bom, qual que é a importância e o papel do profissional do direito, e quanto isso é uma escolha. E além disso, estamos falando sobre qual que é a noção que a gente tem dessas carreiras não tão faladas, né, como a do Aysen, que a gente vai falar um pouco mais hoje. E aí ele me perguntou quanto que ir para a escola de direito foi uma opção para mim, saindo do ensino médio e já fazendo direito. E agora eu vou responder isso. All right. So you asked about how much of a choice it was for me, and did I think about being a lawyer and stuff like that. So during my high school years, I had the chance to work at a notary office. So working at a notary office and learning about all the land registry laws, I thought that going into law school was a really good path. It was a good career to think about. But I didn't have much of a notion of international relations before. So at first, I just went to it because it was the only option. But it was not because the why of why I stayed in law school. Because now I also think about going into a more para-diplomatic career, and that's what I'm trying to think on and build on.
Well, you know, I had a friend that would say, if you're going to be a lawyer, be a notary, and if you're going to be a doctor, be a dentist, because that's the easiest way to make money, right, in the career. And well, yeah, it's for you, like BRICS and so on. It has to do with international transactions, right?
It does, yes.
And you know, the B in BRICS is Brazil, so it is about being connected and using the time you're spending in law school to make connections that are going to add up to something going forward, right?
Yes, yes, I totally agree.
And you're doing that, but what is your idea about a career that has an international element?
Good. Well, so in the last few years, I have been in quite an active contact with different embassies of other countries in Brazil, and that has made me pick this interest in para-diplomacy. So I probably think about going into a master's degree in another place of the world after law school. And from there, I think that probably working for another country's government is something that I'd think of, because the diplomatic career in Brazil, it seems to be very hard at this moment. When I look at it as being something very far from my reality.
Well, two things, right? I'm from Bulgaria originally, and your previous friend was
nice.
from Bulgaria. And I don't know if that was like a very big connection between the two countries, but Dilma was from Bulgaria. And,
okay, nice.
And
all
also
right.
that the second thing is, I originally did my master's in Chinese politics. But when it comes to China and politics, you're not, given the opportunity to have very much input. And that's why I went to law school. So that's kind of opposite for you. Because for me, it was international relations first, and then law school. And you were saying that for you, it is law school and then international relations. And I don't know what the space is for that. Like, people are involved in the idea that lawyers should have input into international relations and diplomacy, but we need to create that space as well, because
I like that.
That space is not available to us, right? And
yes.
For you going forward, is China like an area you're interested in? I mean, completely closed at the moment. Nobody can enter the country, but in general, is that something that you're interested in? China?
Yes, so I would consider China definitely for some more studies in this area of maybe international cooperation or something related to that. I have not yet completely decided where I will do my master's degree, but I am considering two programs which I thought were interesting, and I thought that I would have great possibilities, which were doing an LLM in Utah in the US, and also another possibility Check that out. Look at his face. And also, there are some programs in Azerbaijan that I thought were interesting for a master's as well.
Well, Utah and so on. The US is great because you can be a lawyer in the US when you graduate and when you pass the bar, right? And you don't have to go to law school to take the bar. Other countries have a completely closed system. You can never be a Chinese lawyer as of right now, no matter what you do. So the US is the place where you can realize the idea of being an international lawyer, right?
That is right, yes.
How much time and how much money you spend also depends on what your plan is. We know that in the US we don't have the LLB degree, right? You might,
which is what I'm currently in right now.
Yeah. To be enrolled in a JD program, that's, a different thing from what most civil law countries have. I have your questions right here. And is a JD a good idea? Maybe, depending on what you want to do and where you want to go, right? And for you, what would be like a choice? What are your ideas about doing a JD in the States?
Well, I haven't stopped to think a lot about doing a JD. I mostly researched about the LLM programs, but that's something that I could look into, so I could work into the LLM and JD at the same time, maybe.
Well, I did that, but I got an LLM in China, right? However, the law schools that I went to were not so interested in promoting the idea of doing that. I went to the States for a year, did my second year in China, went back, finished my JD, and it was something that you need to create for yourself, right? If you want to be creative about your program and you want to maximize it and maybe even save on tuition fee, that's an idea. But law schools are not going to create it for you. You need to do it for yourself. And then you need to be pushy when it comes to transferring your credits, for example, because in different countries, it can come down to something very basic. It's in China, a credit hour is 45 minutes. In the States, it's 60 minutes. But then you need to be able to communicate to your office and make sure that you get the right documents. Which sounds very boring, but can actually mean a lot when you are transferring credits and so on, and when you are getting degrees in a couple of different countries.
Okay, yes. So that makes a lot of sense. I made some notes here, and I think that already gives me some ideas of this general thing of building up your degree, and that's just great. I'll just translate it so that people can understand some more of what we're saying, okay? And then we have some questions that people asked here in the comments. Então, agora, o Eisen estava falando um pouco mais assim, quando ele foi estudar na China, né, ele estudou sobre relações internacionais, estudou sobre política, no seu bachelor's, né, que seria no bacharelado. Aí ele voltou para os Estados Unidos para continuar estudando. E aí nos Estados Unidos, as taxas para educação e tudo mais são bem elevadas, né? e também ele tinha essa intenção de fazer essa cooperação internacional. E os países, de modo geral, não têm assim, esse desejo de fazer com que você fique pulando de colégio em colégio, fique transferindo. Existe sempre um problema grande em compensar essas matérias que você está fazendo de um lugar em outro. Então ele estava falando sobre prestar atenção nisso, né? Por exemplo, na China, 1 hora aula é 45 minutos. Nos Estados Unidos eram 60 minutos. Então ele teve que ser muito persistente em conseguir validar todas essas matérias que ele fez de um lugar em outro. E aí, algumas outras coisas que eu anotei aqui, ele também falou que tem alguns amigos, né, que falam para ele que se você vai ser um advogado, seja um notário, né, porque nos Estados Unidos qualquer pessoa pode ser e dá muito dinheiro. E se você for ser um doutor, seja um dentista, né, porque um dentista acaba ganhando dinheiro lá de forma tranquila, assim, digamos, né. Então, de modo geral, toda essa conversa está rodando sobre o espaço de criar espaços para que advogados tenham essa carreira internacional e que tenham essa noção internacional. Não é algo que você pode entrar e seguir uma carreira que já está feita, mas são coisas que você precisa criar para você mesmo, né? Okay. So, just a quick question that somebody just sent here. Was there something specifically that piqued your interest into studying China politics?
Well, actually, today is the China anniversary for me. I've been here for 18 years, and when I first
wow.
came here, it was
happy China anniversary.
And the idea was that China was opening up, and actually it isn't, right? So we had this thought that we are going to be involved in like policy making and whatnot. And we cannot be involved in policy making, but we can be involved in deal making, right? So I didn't have a very strong cultural reason to be here, but from the perspective of this is one of the centers of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I wanted to be here, and I've been here. And it's when it comes to having like a place at the table, it's hard as a foreigner in China, but at the same time, everything that happens in China is related to international matters. So if you want to combine them, if you want to be creative, yeah, China is still the place to be.
Okay.
So,
okay.
When it comes to BRICS, how about BRICS?
Mm-hmm. How do we feel about it? How do we relate to?
No, is it like a thing that people consider?
Well, I don't think it's as much considered as it should be, or at least as when we see other kinds of economic blocks and just gatherings of countries. I feel like we are still in the process of building BRICS, and I feel like we are still very distant in many different aspects. And I haven't really like studied a lot into it, but I'm saying what do we feel on it as we are, for example, studying international relations in college and not having any kind of focus on BRICS. We're just seeing it as any other, different block.
But, within BRICS, China is the biggest
economy, yeah.
Country that is
biggest country.
Happening, right?
It is definitely.
When it comes to opportunities and so on, it is the biggest market.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And, when it comes to Brazil, how about the Belt and Road?
Mm-hmm.
What is thought about the Belt and Road?
Mm-hmm. Well, I do know about the initiative, but I haven't thought too much about like what role we can play in there.
Well, it is an initiative. An initiative, as an initiative goes, it's like an empty word, right? But within China, it is something that China is excited about and China wants to promote, right? Whether we want to package things to be Belt and Road or just China-related investment is the same thing, but to China it might not be the same thing, which is, you know, something to be aware about. And when it comes to investment, to trade and so on, maybe the first step is relating it to the Belt and Road and relating it to tourism, right? It might be something that we not necessarily have to think about, but at the same time, Chinese parties like it.
Okay.
And that is something to take advantage of as well, because, you know, we don't have to necessarily judge what different countries are doing to package their foreign policy. But if they are packaging it in a particular way, then this is something to take advantage of. And if your viewers and classmates and so on, and you yourself, it is a good idea to maybe spend some time in China when it becomes possible, being involved in Belt and Road initiatives. But at the same time, it is picking the right university and then being involved with maybe the alumni network and so on. And that is, you know, Beijing and Shanghai. Beyond that, doesn't matter too much where you're spending time, because the biggest companies and the investments are here in Beijing and Shanghai.
Okay, all right. So I'll just make a quick summary of what we talked and about the answer you gave also to why you studied in China. Então, o João havia perguntado ali porque se tinha alguma coisa específica que fez ele estudar na China, querer estudar política, né, na China. E aí ele falou que há 18 anos atrás foi quando ele se mudou para a China pela primeira vez. E aí, né, então hoje é tipo o aniversário da China dele, né, o China-versário dele. E o professor Eisen falou que naquele tempo, né, eles tinham essa noção de que tinha uma esperança de que a China estava abrindo. E ele queria estar envolvido em fazer essas novas políticas de abertura da China, né? Só que acabou acontecendo que se passaram já 18 anos e essa abertura acabou nunca acontecendo. Mas ainda assim, né, ele reconhece a China como um centro do mundo. E sendo esse centro do mundo onde tantas coisas estão acontecendo, né, dá para perceber que é um lugar que vale a pena estar e que vale a pena estudar e gastar tempo lá. E aí ele falou que recomenda, né, estudar na China para a gente, se tivermos a possibilidade, né, e estar em Pequim ou Xangai são os lugares chave, assim, para você poder também estudar, entrar em contato com as redes de contatos que existem lá, de alunos das universidades. Então, seriam esses pontos importantes para levar em consideração se estiver pensando em estudar na China. Yes, that is very interesting. You know, I have followed some people who have been building careers in China as well in other areas, in business and investment, and pretty much their ideas align a lot with what you just mentioned. You know, these things about being in the centers, and also the building of networks seems to have like a very, very strong point in China. I've heard maybe there's a specific word, like guan something, that is the word for networking.
Guanxi.
Guanxi.
Yeah. But, you know, it's that simple, and at the same time, it's not that simple, right? Because what is something useful that we could give to people that are interested in China? Well, nothing exactly. It's spending time here could be useful. And then when it comes to, again, we are talking about this from the perspective of like a normal situation, but this year hasn't been normal, right?
Yeah, not at all.
There, nobody's traveling, no investment is happening, and for a very long time, China was the biggest source of outbound tourists, and when it came to investment, for a while, China was also the biggest investor. That was, outbound wise, China was the biggest source of funds. But is that going to recover after the pandemic? We don't know, but we hope that we can reopen and then we'll go back to normal. But if we do, yeah, it's a good idea to spend some time here as a law student. And however, when you do that, it's also a good idea to try to maximize it and transfer your credits, get 2 degrees at the same time, because China is open and willing to be flexible, right?
Okay.
But we also need to remember, as a foreigner, as a foreign person, as a person who doesn't have a Chinese ID card, you cannot be a lawyer here. So that's something to keep in mind. And actually, as a foreigner, which in China we hear a lot more than anybody else, the best place to go to law school to be a full-blown lawyer is the States, right? Or was. Because you go to school, you take the bar, and after you pass the bar, you're as much of a lawyer as anybody else. And in Brazil, I guess, that's not the case. In Europe, also not the case. So planning an international career would have to do with that, keeping in mind what is reasonable for you and what is not. Having a China element might be useful for like joining a law firm in your country, but do you want to be involved in these transactions? Well, maybe. If you want to do it, then this is something to think about from an early stage. And in some of your questions, it was like, are there any required courses? Well, I went to law school in the States, and there are required courses, and you don't have any say when it comes to that. But if you are going to do masters in China, if you do an LLB in China, that would be kind of ridiculous, right? Because that would be in Chinese. But universities, law schools in China are offering masters in law in English, and that's not a bad idea. But then you can be selective about it as well. And some of the best law schools in China are among the best in the world. And if you are selective, if you negotiate with them in advance, then you can have a very good experience getting a degree in China. But again, with the caveat that you will not be a lawyer after you graduate here.
Okay, understood. Yes. Então, o que a gente acabou falando agora, né, é que não tem como ser um advogado na China não sendo um nacional da China. Então, isso é um ponto para levar em consideração se você está pensando em fazer uma carreira na China relacionada à área legal, né? E aí ele falou sobre algumas incertezas também, se depois da pandemia, né, depois desse mundo novo, pré-pós-Covid, se a gente vai ter ainda essas mesmas possibilidades, essas mesmas oportunidades. mas ele falou que geralmente as universidades da China estão muito abertas para negociar essas questões dos degrees e de como que nós vamos cumprir as horas e os créditos e tudo mais. Então isso é tudo, se for negociado com antecedência, pode ser uma boa experiência fazer um mestrado na China, ter esse elemento China no seu currículo, mas tudo depende de que tipo de carreira que você quer construir, né? And yeah, you know, I was just thinking as you were saying, I feel like I probably need to rethink a lot of my career and actually have a clearer vision, because if you don't have a vision, kind of you don't know where to go, and kind of just adding these random international things in your resume might not be helpful. So thank you so much for all of that input as well.
Well, you know, the biggest law firms in the world are Chinese, right? So what is international also is being redefined, because the Chinese law firms work in a different way than other firms. They are giving you a platform, and then being there, you have the benefit of having a big platform, but at the same time, it is the business that you bring in that matters, right? So if anybody is thinking about that, it is what in China is called eat what you kill, which is kind of graphic, right? But it is about your business. You might share it with somebody else, but you try to keep as much of the revenue to yourself. There might be a management fee and so on. So
okay, we just
disconnect is in law school, right? Because when you're in law school,
it does, yeah.
You're kind of philosophically minded, right? And then when you join a law firm, you are kind of providing support to somebody else. And then when you are a partner, you're doing marketing, and these skills are very different. When it comes to China, it's from the beginning you're supposed to be doing marketing, and if we have this awareness or this idea that you should be fostering your connections and connecting to your clients and being able to bring your clients to a law firm, that should be happening from a very early stage.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
Well, we just had a question here coming up as well, and then maybe I'll just translate after your answer. So there's a program that is becoming very famous for people studying international relations and even law, which is called Schwarzman Scholars from Tsinghua University. And one of the people watching just asked if you have heard of this program before, if you might have an opinion about it.
Well, Tsinghua is one of the best universities in China, so being in that program would not be in any way detrimental to your career. Like there are Tsinghua and Beijing University are the top 2 universities in China. So yeah, if that's an option, yeah.
Okay, good to know. All right. Good. Well, I'll just translate real quick and so that people can also get what we're saying. No. Então, acabou de vir uma pergunta também da Karine, obrigado por sua pergunta, né? Pedindo se o Schwarzman Scholars é um programa que talvez valha a pena e tudo mais, né? E eu também já estudei um pouco sobre esse programa, né? Um programa super interessante. E então, o que ele falou é que é uma das melhores universidades da China, né? Então, não tem qualquer motivo que esse programa possa ser ruim ou ter algum problema para sua carreira, mas sim, provavelmente vai te proporcionar só boas oportunidades, estando numa universidade tão renomada, né? Então, muito obrigado por sua pergunta. And what also what we were saying, so the people who come into the law firms, so like the beginning of your career would be more into about like bringing clients into the firm. So you would go into the firm already having this marketing sense, being this person who does the bringing in. That's the idea.
That's the disconnect, right? Because if you are able to bring in clients and revenue, of course that's appreciated by the firm, but this is not what you talk about in law school too much, right?
It is, yeah, totally agreed, and I think that's worldwide problem.
That's bridging between law school and practice is problematic because we don't have a very good way of communicating to law students that you should be networking, you should be able to bring in business. But yeah, especially as a foreign person in a Chinese law firm, you can never be a partner because you're not a Chinese lawyer, right? And bringing business in is very important.
Okay, all right. I'll translate that.
Yeah.
Então, se você é uma pessoa de outro país que está vindo para a China para trabalhar, especialmente no campo legal, né? A ideia é que você, entrando em uma firma, já que você não vai poder ser um advogado chinês por não ser cidadão chinês, você tem que trazer negócios, né? E ele até falou uma frase interessante, falou que eles falam que você come o que você mata, né? You eat what you kill. Então, nesse sentido, os estudantes, as pessoas novas na firma tem que estar trazendo esses clientes, esses negócios. E aí, ele falou sobre esse desconexo que existe entre o que a gente aprende na universidade e essas coisas da vida real, assim, né? Como a gente precisa trabalhar com marketing, como precisa trabalhar com essas habilidades que não são exploradas, né? E eu acho, né, trazendo a minha opinião pessoal agora em português, e hoje eu vou falar para ele, que isso na verdade é uma questão que é uma realidade no Brasil também, né? A gente aprende lá na faculdade várias questões sobre as habilidades técnicas, mas questões de negociação, né, fechar um contrato com os seus honorários, quanto você vai ganhar, conseguir clientes, né, da forma que a OAB regulamenta, tudo isso são coisas que a gente não aprende muito, né? Então, você acaba aprendendo com a experiência do mundo, mas não tem, assim, na sua formação, questões de habilidades de empreendedorismo advocatício ou marketing jurídico, né? Essas são coisas que estão nascendo agora, né, com cursos online e outras coisas, mas não fazem parte da nossa educação formal. I was just connecting this to the idea that here in Brazil, I also feel like we have this gap between what we learn and the technical skills and the real world skills that a lawyer would need, you know.
Yeah.
We don't learn about entrepreneurship and about marketing and about closing with clients, you know, all these abilities we kind of need to go through and learn in the real world. And I feel like probably that's something that happens in all the world, actually, right? I'm not sure if universities are preparing us really.
To think about, right? Because
universities
don't prepare anybody for that. I've talked to people that have made partners, and they'll be like, "I'm so good at technical stuff. I might be like a patent attorney or whatever, but then suddenly I need to talk to people, and they hate it." And we don't do that very well. It's like we request that people take a certain amount of classes, and we want them to take this and that class, and then they pass the bar, and then they are lawyers, and suddenly everything that was like, let's say in the US, constitutional law, for example, that's very philosophical, that's very abstract, right?
It is, yes. The pursuit of happiness.
And then you join a law firm and you're somebody's secretary for a few years. But then if you bring business in, then suddenly you're a marketing person. And China is really streamlining this, because I was for a few years with Dentons, which was not Dentons at the time, but the biggest law firm in the world, and people don't work together. It's about bringing in your own business and about being able to create that revenue, right? And if students of law would be able to think about this from like an earlier stage, they at least would be prepared about that ultimately the one important thing is bringing business in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That just makes us think about a lot about the world of work and education, how that goes together. And yeah, like, thank you so much. You gave me tons of insights. So I'll need a couple of days to think about all of these and digest these ideas. But it was just so good to talk with you and to receive all these advices from somebody who have been in an international career for so long. Thank you really for being willing to do this and for taking the time to answer my questions. And I hope we can keep in touch in the future as well.
Great talking to you, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Hey, thanks a lot, and I hope you have a great week and that you can get some rest now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Boa noite. Gente, obrigado por terem acompanhado essa live. Diferente, porque eu não quis ficar interrompendo o Eisen também para poder trazer as traduções e trazer um pouco mais de tudo que ele falou comigo, mas eu acho que foi muito valiosa, eu tirei tantas anotações, e, por favor, eu provavelmente fiquei moscando ali e não traduzi muitas coisas, então fiquem à vontade para me mandar mensagem para a gente poder conversar um pouco mais sobre os assuntos que a gente tratou. E se você tiver mais alguma dúvida também, eu não teria um problema em compartilhar o contato do Eisen, se ele me autorizar. Então, obrigado por acompanhar. E agora eu vou tirar um break e daqui a pouco vai ter live sobre como que é estudar direito na Nigéria. Então, obrigado por ter acompanhado essa live da 1 hora sobre negócios na China e nos Estados Unidos, né? Essa live eu vou salvar agora aqui para você poder assistir depois se quiser. E então, daqui a pouco, daqui a alguns minutos... daqui a 10 minutos já vai ter a live sobre como que é estudar direito na Nigéria, tá bom? Obrigado, gente.